nature. Okay, so back to the story. Mom and Dad had 100 babies. Well, the truth is that in one anemone, one individual anemone, there's usually a pair of fish that are sexually mature. Unlike any other damselfish, anemone fish pair up. All other damselfish have pairings, one male and a female. In anemone fish, there's one male, one female. So they pair up, and those of you who have died will know they never go very far from their anemone, so once they're paired up, there's really no chance to go anywhere else and have any extramarital dalliance. Occasionally, the pair consists of two different species of fish. This is pretty rare, but those of you I was talking to beforehand know that breeding anemone fish is relatively easy, and making crosses among many of the species is relatively easy, and they do it themselves in nature. So these things, which were described as Amphictyon leucocratos by my co-author Jerry Allen from specimens in Papua New Guinea and in the Solomon Islands, are now known to be a hybrid. We found many anemones, only in New Guinea and the Solomon Islands, with one individual of each of the two other species, and the babies are all Amphictyon leucocratos. So some of the diversity of anemones may have been produced ultimately by hybridization. So, Mom and Dad had 100 babies. And actually, 100 is low. When in nature, anemone fish settle into anemones, they never go very far. They can't, the anemone provides their protection. So if they swim very far away, they're gobbled up. And so they have to lay their eggs near there too. So Mom lays the eggs on something beside the anemone. The anemone then protects the eggs as well. And Dad takes care of it. So this is Dad mouthing the eggs. How do you tell Mom from Dad? They look pretty much the same. Mom is always larger than Dad. So the largest anemone fish in an anemone is the female, and the next largest is the male. And so Dad's there taking care of the eggs. Now, I told you some anemones live on a soft bottom. They don't have a rock for Mom to lay the eggs on. This is a picture I took in Okinawa. There is a soft drink can that the fish rolled up under the anemone, and there were eggs on the soft drink can. So garbage can be used. Now, there weren't always, and there aren't always soft drink cans. I've also found coconut shells rolled up against the anemone by the fish so that the eggs have a place to be laid. So the eggs are always laid right beside the anemone and are tended. And then the eggs hatch at night. And Mom and 99 babies are eaten by a barracuda. Well, maybe, but in fact, a grouper is much more likely to eat an anemone fish than a barracuda. And I know this because I've done experiments, unfortunately, where I've tried to see how far away I could take an anemone fish from its anemone and it could still find its way home. As I said, they don't venture very far. The anemone is its means of protection. It's security. The anemone fish are just sort of defenseless themselves. So I took them away and further and further away until finally they got out of their comfort zone. And when it was obvious they were out of their comfort zone, they sort of thrash around a little bit, look a little lost, and they're behaving very abnormally. And that's when a grouper will dash in and grab it. So that's what happens to an anemone fish if it gets very far from its anemone. So then Mom and 99 babies are eaten by a barracuda, and Dad cares for Nemo, and Dad cares for the eggs. But what happens is the eggs hatch at night, and the larvae just go into the plankton. And they drift around for a week or so until they mature and they're ready to go into an anemone themselves. So they aren't cared for by Mom and Dad, but that would be kind of a hard story to tell children. So I understand why it was done that way. So Mom and Dad have another kids. Dad cares for the eggs, nobody cares for the baby. But those of you who've been diving know that you often see situations like this, and this is what the movie made a capitalized on. Here is one anemone with lots of fish in it. Where did they all come from? Well, the sad fact is they are not a family. They are not even related to each other. The largest fish in the anemone, as I said, is the female. And let's say this is the second largest, that's the male. And all the rest are sexually immature. And when the female dies of old age or goes too far from the anemone and is seized, the male immediately changes into a female. And the largest juvenile turns into a male. Because there isn't just an anemone fish sort of swimming around out there looking for a mate. Once they settle into their anemone, they never move from it. And so the supply of the replacement has to be there. So, at the time the biggest one disappears, the male not only becomes a female, but he grows a little bit. And then the largest one that's turning into a male can grow a little bit. And the one below that can grow a little bit. And the one below that can grow a little bit. And then there's room at the bottom for a tiny little one that's in the plankton waiting for an anemone to settle in. So all of these fish have accumulated in this anemone over a long time. And they're not related to each other. How long? Well, there have been some studies of anemone fish that have followed pairs of fish for 5 years or more. So if the female was female for 5 years and that male was a male for 5 years, we can assume the female might have been a male for 5 years, and then some of these little guys may be 15 or 20 years old before they can move up to mate. So these mated pairs of fish in nature may be 40 or 50 years old. And it takes a long time, and so the little guy who's coming in right now is very unlikely to have come from the eggs that are spawned by the pair in that same anemone. So, as they say, truth is stranger than fiction. This is a very complex situation. But, if you think about it, if it takes 50 years for a little one to settle in the bottom and to work its way up and to become the female, the anemone has to be much older than that. Many times older. Or this sort of conveyor belt of fish through the anemone would never work. If the anemone lived only 50 years, it would all stop and one generation of fish, but they don't. And I've gone back to my study sites in New Guinea to look at big anemones that I've had. They don't die, they don't grow, they're always there. So we estimate, based on this and some other research, that these big anemones must live several hundred years. And therefore, even if you do well with one in your tank, you're depriving the next generation of anything that it could produce out of spawning, and you're depriving all of those anemone fish that would have cycled through it of a home to live in, because they have nowhere but the anemone to live in. So, Nemo rebels against Dad by swimming to the edge of the reef, is caught and sent to a dentist's office. And of course, by now, Dad would be Mom. So this is also another difficult part to include in children's